So Blair,
Yes.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming and chatting to us here at the Piping Show.
Nice to see you.
I always like this time of year
Yes.
in Glasgow because it's nice and fresh. It's a lovely fresh autumnal day.
It is.
It's nice and bright, so we thought we'd come outside and have a chat.
Love it.
I also like it because there's lots of drummers around.
There are.
We've got the World Solo Drumming Championships this weekend coming.
Yep.
So it's always good to see you guys in and around Glasgow and popping at the Piping Centre here. So
It's always nice to be welcomed by the Piping Centre. You know, like
all welcome.
for years and years now, I've been coming here to practice, and slowly, more. Sorry if it's a hassle, but more people have been coming, and it's a really great central hub for us to be able to come and have a tune with our pipers.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's great to have you around.
yeah, cheers.
You and I do other work throughout the year in different places, but it's always cool to kind of catch up here. But I thought it'd be interesting for those that don't really know about the championships, how it all works. You know, most of the pipers that are involved with pipe bands and even the kind of solo piping scene know a lot about that. But how does the World Solo Drumming competition work? Is there qualifying events or what's?
So the World Solos now has recently switched over. I want to say probably the last 5 or 6 years. There are pre-qualifying competitions, and they have slowly grown in status and stature, and now they have championship titles that have been given to them, which is great. A few years ago, when they were starting this, it was just there was still a morning qualifying round, and you could gain a spot into the semifinals by playing at one of the circuit contests. And now this is the first year that they've actually removed the morning qualifying section, and you had to have played in one of the circuit competitions, the championships, to make it into the semifinals. And so there will be a semifinal round. There have already been rounds, right, of course, with these championships. So then there's a semifinal round with, I think it's 15 players in each section, and then 6 players from each will qualify and go into the finals. It's a draw on the line, so you submit 2 MSRs, it's a draw on the line, and then if you happen to make the finals, you play your other MSR, and there's another section which is the double hornpipe, double jig. So you have to play pointed hornpipe into a round hornpipe, and then 2 jigs that have to be a minimum of 4 parts each.
Okay.
So that's up. The format has changed over the last, as I said, 5 or 6 years. The double hornpipe jig was introduced, I think, 6 or 7 years ago, kind of not to make it more of a medley style, but somewhat more interesting than just a 2.5 minute straight up hornpipe into a jig. The medley format was kind of thrown around, and it's a really cool idea, but it's hard enough to get pipers to play for drummers.
Well, I've always said to you, look, give me a shout, you know.
I know.
I'm always around in October.
I know. I am fortunate enough to have a twin brother that's pretty good.
You have, yes.
So it's really nice.
So how do you go about selecting the tunes? And obviously, because as pipers we pick the tunes that we like. Mm-hmm. You'll do the same. But are there certain tunes that kind of lend themselves to parts that you particularly like to play, or stylistic things that you like to choose?
For sure, of course there are, but I think you already hit the top priority. I think the top priority, and when I am picking tunes with my students, early on I'm almost picking for them, because a beginner player doesn't really know any better. They don't really know. They don't have a repertoire. They don't know what they should play. So it kind of starts off with this is a 2/4 march you should play. This is a 6/8 march you should play. And as you build your repertoire, and hopefully are getting more and more into pipe bands and piping and other folk instruments and trad music, you should be finding tunes that you like. So for me, the most important thing is that you pick something you like. And the reason for that is I think you'll probably play it better, but also you're going to play it 5,000 times, right? So you have to like it, or you're going to bash your head against a wall. And you might do that anyway with frustration in practice at times, but frustration can be a good thing as well. But yeah, I like to pick the tunes that I connect with and that I feel really good about, and then try and a lot of players, more players now than before, are composing their own drum scores, right?
Okay.
There are, of course, classic drum scores written by Alec Duthert, Jim Kilpatrick, Reed Maxwell, Gordon Brown. There are scores, Bobby Ray. There are scores, Paul Turner. There are scores by all of these guys that are out there and that have been passed around. But more and more people are composing their own scores, which I think is a really good thing.
That's great,
because you're injecting your own style and your own kind of music into the tune. I would say that happens more at the top end, and of course there's still a lot of drummers that will be playing their lead drummer's material as well. And again, that may go back to access to a piper. The piper plays in the band with them. Let's play a band set or some tunes that the band has played the last couple of years, and none of that is wrong. But yeah, I think so. That's the top priority for me is I have to like the tune. I have to connect with the tune. I have to either write a score or know a score or find and source a score that I connect with and like. And oftentimes when I do that myself, I'm adding little tweaks to it. Right?
Yeah.
There'll be little arrangements or adjustments to it, and then you have to try and make sure, or at least I think, try and make sure that the tunes go well together. You want to have something that tells a little bit of a story, or at least flows with the actual breaks and changes, because that can either add excitement to a performance or drain a performance, right?
Yeah.
As you know, like when I've listened to you performing, and I think folkies and trad players do this really, really well. The tune selection that
Change
you guys,
the tunes, yep.
That's a big part of it, right? So I think that's, you engage the audience and hopefully the judges, and so those are a few of the factors that go into how I pick
And
sets.
are you feeling well prepared?
I feel well prepared. Yeah.
You're always pretty well prepared, eh?
I am someone that likes to form a routine and then tweak when I see fit and necessary, but I've had basically the same practice and preparation routine almost all of the 20 times that I've come over for the World Solos.
Yeah.
And it's not just the World Solos, there are other big competitions as well. But as I'm preparing for a big competition, I have it's kind of the way that a marathoner, and I'm not a marathoner, but how they prepare is you ramp up and then you ramp down. You don't want to have your biggest practice day 2 days before the contest.
Yeah.
That makes no
Too late.
sense.
Yeah.
If you're not ready a week out, if you couldn't stand on the stage a week before the actual competition and feel comfortable, you probably haven't prepared well enough. So for me, it comes down to about 5 to 6 weeks, right? So the World Pipe Band Championship finishes, you kind of decompress a little bit, and then it ramps up again. And I start with kind of 45 minutes to an hour, and just like playing through, picking tunes and playing through. At this stage, I mean, I'm 40 and have been here for 20 years, 20 World Solo Championships, and I have a repertoire of tunes that I like to draw from. I've introduced a couple new tunes, obviously, every few years. I'm not someone that plays exactly the same sets, and I think most players are doing that, picking a new tune every year or two to kind of insert, and they'll add it to, a stress band reel that they're already playing. But yeah, so you get the tunes picked out, and then you're kind of just playing through the tunes, and then you ramp that up, and it goes to an hour and a half, and then it goes to 2 hours, and then it goes to 3 hours. And in those practice sessions, it's the nitty-gritty. Right? It's not just playing through the tunes. It's this 2-bar phrase or this one part, breaking it down, kind of like isolating, and then building back out, and then back to playing through full sets. And
proper practice. Yeah.
Proper practice. Yeah. This is the thing. It's like, as I said, frustration is part of the game. If someone goes through a practice session or like a run up to a big competition and they have had an easy time of it for 4 or 5 weeks. There needs to be more work done.
Yeah.
So then I come over. So I'm here for a little over a week before the contest this trip, and Glenn and I start on the chanter and pad, playing through the stuff, and again just kind of like feeling out little things and playing through the sets, and then we'll come in and come to the center or over at Otago Street and play through, and we're actually only on the pipes and drums for 25 minutes. It's just to play through the sets and maybe play through a break or something you didn't like how something went, play through that again, and then you box it up and you go for a coffee or go for a drink, right?
Yeah.
So I am feeling pretty
feeling it.
Yeah.
And what tunes you playing this year? Can you say?
I can say.
Top secret?
Sure, I could say. So my first MSR is Lord Alexander Kennedy, which is a favorite march of mine and has been in and out of the repertoire for almost 20 years. The first time I played that at the World Solos, I think, was 2004, maybe 2003. And I wasn't preparing that for the solos. But my older brother, Graham, who you know, Graham's a prolific composer and I think a really great composer. He had written this score for Lord Alexander Kennedy, and he said, I'd like you to play this at the solos. And I was like, it's like 3 weeks, maybe a month before the contest. I'm not sure, learning and then playing it. And I did, and I played it, and I'm not sure if I won the semifinals with it, but I placed well with it. And then 2004 was the first year that I placed at the World Solos. So that's a favorite. That's always going to be in and around the repertoire. I'm playing Lord Alexander Kennedy, Cabernet Strasbe, also top favorite. One of my favorite tunes.
Great tune.
Into Brown-Haired Maid. And then my other MSR is Dougal McCall's Farewell to France, which is fairly new into the repertoire. And when I played it for the first time in 2019, I had never heard a solo drummer play it. It's not a classic solo drumming tune. So Dougal McCall's Farewell to France, Cameronian Rant, which is a classic and all-time favorite, and Pretty Marion. So that's a big set.
Big tunes.
And that's another thing to consider is the structure of parts that you want to play, right? Because I want to say probably 15, 16 years ago, there were not many people playing 4-parted marches. It just, you would play a 6-parted march or an 8-parted march. There are a couple. But slowly and thankfully, more 4-parted marches have come into the fray at the World Solos. And now at the World Pipe Band Championships, there's the Saturday MSR competition is 4-4-4, right? Yeah. So everyone is restricted, may not be the right word, but restricted to playing 4-4-4, which I think the idea is to get a little bit more creativity with tune selection, because it has gotten a little bit monotonous. And as a spectator, if all you're hearing is Highland Wedding and Tom McAllister and Balmoral Highlanders and Lord Alexander Kennedy, all of those are great tunes. But if those are the only 4 marches that are being heard, it gets a little stale. So Dougal McCall, Farewell to France, Cameronian Rant, and Pretty Marion, to me that works really well, because a 4-parted march runs for 2 minutes, maybe a little bit over 2 minutes, and then you play an 8-parted Strasbe and an 8-parted reel. If you played a 6-parted march, and I have played 6, 8, and 8, but that's not easy.
It's a big play,
and that's a challenge for the piper and the drummer, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to, it's sometimes hard to find pipers for drummers. You say to somebody that potentially may play for you, these are my tunes, and they go, I'm not sure about that. Yeah. So kind of structuring the way and the parts that you're going to play, I think, is something to consider as well. And then the other set is 6-4-6, so a longer march, but a cut in half Strasbe, and then a 6-parted reel. So I think.
And then what about the other sets?
And the other set, I'm hoping to make the final. The double hornpipe jig is, I've gone back to an all-time favorite hornpipe that I played for a few years, many years ago, the Highland Swing. And then Trevor Buckley is the round hornpipe, and then into Michael McDonald's jig and then Athol Highlanders.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And what's happening in the rest of your drumming and your kind of music world?
A lot of teaching.
Yeah.
So I teach drumming full time, which you know.
Yeah.
So just I have a couple of slots, I would say, available for students. If anyone wants to hit me up, BlairBrownPercussion.com.
Get the plug in.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm really happy with the kind of like roster of students I have. My days are full. I could fit in another couple students if I really wanted to, and workshops, and I've been teaching the Robert Malcolm Memorial Band, which is the SFU feeder band. I rejoined SFU back at the start of this year, so January. So that went pretty well.
Busy time. You had the big concert this summer as well.
Huge concert, and which went really well. That's the first time I've done that concert. And
that's a big week when you're doing that, and the Worlds.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I have friends and brothers and have been very close to people that have done it many times, but I've always missed it. Playing in shots, the first stint and the second stint was kind of bookended when I played with SFU before. They had just done the concert. So I've always missed the concert by a couple months. I've joined just after they've done it or left just before they did it. And so this was the first year that I've done the pre-Worlds concert, been in a band that has been doing that. And it was a really great experience, but super busy. And on top of bringing over a grade 3 band and playing in SFU, it's by far the busiest trip I've ever had to Glasgow. Yeah. I stayed with the band, of course. I normally stay with Glenn out in the south side, and I was at his flat for 5 minutes the whole trip. Yeah. Just to pop in and collect some things and drop some things off.
Good busy week.
Yeah.
So listen, if anyone wants to come along at the weekend, where can they catch the World Solo Drumming?
So the World Solos are held now at the Glasgow Caledonian University. I'm pointing over there because it's literally over there. A 5-minute walk from the Piping Center, and come along. I mean, it's a great event, and the seats are always full. You know, but again, there's standing room, and there are a few seats that people could get tickets to. But yeah, come along, and it's not just really good drumming that you hear. It's also really great piping.
Of course, yep.
Some of the piping there is top notch.
Maybe the pipers feel a bit more relaxed because the pressure isn't necessarily on them as they.
I think some feel that, but I also think that some of them feel a lot of pressure because they don't want to drop the ball with their drummer.
When you need a good piper, Blair,
I'll give you a shout.
But
I'll give you a shout.
Best of luck for the weekend, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me, pal.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.